Hello, everybody. Ron Callis here to bring you another episode of Automation Unplugged. This is episode 107, brought to you by my day job over at One Firefly. I hope today finds you well. Today is Tuesday, April 7th. I've lost count of how many days we're in quarantine. I think it's been weeks. But all is well here. My family is still happy and healthy. My son is successfully doing his remote education, so he still has to meet with his teachers and do his homework. Although the family dog is really loving it, Charlotte, and because he gets to, of course, take all of his intermissions and go out and throw the ball with Charlotte, so she's absolutely loving this quarantine from home. I am, as you probably have been able to tell, we are producing quite a few Automation Unplugs here the past couple of weeks as we tried to bring you really relevant guests and topics that we feel would likely benefit all of you. And so we've ramped up our production of content. So if you're out there watching or listening, definitely give us a like, give us a share. If you don't mind, I'd love to see where you're coming to us from. So drop into the comments and say hello. And as we get into the interview, definitely drop any questions you might have for Mike, our guest. And so on that note, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm here to bring you Mike Giffin. He's VP over at Help Lightning. And we're going to get into what Help Lightning is, but I actually just discovered these guys about a month ago, and I was super impressed. So I wanted to bring him to you right away. So here we go. We're going to bring in Mike Giffin. Mike, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, Ron. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I know you're particularly busy right now. You said March was the busiest month in company history. So thanks for doing that to speak with me.
Yeah, March was extraordinary, and it is unfortunate the cause, but the cause was the COVID-19 epidemic, and what that's done is it's forced people who are out doing field service and taking care of customer problems and so forth to find a way to do those things without actually physically appearing. Now, my focus with Help Lightning is on developing the custom integration and consumer electronics channel, which is related to my background. I've spent all my life in consumer electronics, and so with the CI people, there's kind of a double opportunity right now. Or let me put it another way. There's a set of pinchers that are happening. On the one hand, this sort of shelter in place thing that we've all been asked to practice, and I think that is the socially responsible thing to do, is putting a bigger strain on installed systems for entertainment, communication, security, et cetera, in people's houses. Because every member of the household is there 24/7, pretty much. And that's not what people are used to. And what that means is that there's a heavy load on the system. And there's also, it's an opportunity for people to try things they've never tried on the system, which is an opportunity to encounter some errors and some mistakes and to sort of maybe screw things up a little bit. So I would say that while everybody's sheltering in place, and it's difficult for the CI dealers to all be where they belong and to respond in a normal way to people who have problems. The problems are greater than usual.
I would say right now, I mean, integrators in many cases are entirely in a situation where they, even if they want to go out to their job sites, like in California or in San Francisco or now New York, there's shelter in place. You're literally the job site or the construction site is sheltered, or in the case of a finished job site, I mean, Mrs. Smith probably doesn't want the technician coming into
That's
their
right.
house to service them.
That's
So,
right.
Mike, I want to get into what Help Lightning is. What is your technology? But I before I do that, I always love for my audience to meet you. And where did you come from? What did you've been in consumer electronics for many years. What did your background look like before you ultimately landed at Help Lightning?
Well, it looked like a life in consumer electronics, primarily in the audio business. When I first got out of college, I decided I was going to go to graduate school, and I decided that back then, since my major was English and it was in the humanities, when you went to graduate school in the humanities, you had to learn foreign languages. You had to pass competency tests in at least two of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to take a year before going to grad school. And during that year, I decided what I wanted to do was to focus on acquiring. I already had a lot of Latin. So I decided I would try to acquire French and get competency in that before I went on. And I was looking for a job that would enable me to do those things, which means not a day job, because I wanted to sit in on classes in the mornings. And I wound up going to a company that sold me a stereo system, and they hired me. And that turned into a 5-year diversion. So I put off graduate school for a long time and wound up managing an audio business that got to be fairly successful. And video was just coming in to audio at the time, but my first love and my remaining love has always been audio. After a couple of years of grad school, I discovered that degrees in English literature don't pay that well. And so I wound up back in the audio business. I got hired by a company that eventually was acquired by Harman International. And I worked for Harman for 22 years, and mostly in senior management positions. I had a great ride there. I went from being a territory sales manager to a Northeastern regional sales manager to a VP of sales. And I left at one point for a 2-year hiatus. They hired me back. I ran Infinity Car Audio, and probably the most fun I ever had in the audio business was running Infinity Car Audio, because it was relatively small business, but it had a big brand name. And when I entered, the car audio was about I would say 15% of their total business. They were a big home audio company, and when I left, home audio was about 15% of their business, and we were a big car audio company.
Wow, that's amazing.
We had number one market share in North America.
I remember in Infinity Audio. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember saving up and buying the speakers for my car and the woofers and the gear and whatnot.
Right.
And Infinity was a big name.
Do you remember the green cones, the in Kappa? That was it's an amazing lesson in how the simplest things can be big marketing moves. I was responsible for that, and it was based on just going to stores and seeing nothing but black ovals and circles and saying, what? It's so drab and boring, and what calls anybody's attention to any of these things? And this was back in the day when you would have one side, one channel of the demo room would have grills on, and the other would have grills off. And that green just popped, and it looked like a metallic cone.
Yeah, I remember it. It stood out.
So I wound up from there becoming SVP of all of car audio for Harman. So I took over JBL, and I took over Harman Kardon. And then I became president of the mobile division. And then I became president of the mobile, portable, and companion products division, which included audio for computers, iPod docking stuff, et cetera, et cetera. We made an acquisition of a company at the time called Fat Noise, brought that in. And then there was a big change at Harman. The Harmans were gone. They got rid of the division presidents within the within all the divisions. So I reported to the CEO, who had come in from Scott's Miracle-Gro. If you could figure that out. He was a nice guy, and I liked working with him. But I became senior vice president for global brands. So I was responsible for all of engineering, product development, strategy, advertising, branding, et cetera, for about a $500 million business. And
Holy moly.
yeah,
Was that stressful or fun or both?
well, it was a different kind of stressful. Yeah, it was almost as stressful as running my own small business.
Yeah,
Because
that's
I had a
fair.
lot of help, but yeah, I basically managed to have a lot of experience in audio and in a lot of dimensions of audio. I had been, by the way, at different times. I'd been a rep. I run small retail. I did a 1.5 year stint within big retail, and there's pretty much everything I've done. But when I started off, I was selling Heath kits and Jensen triaxials, and when I ended up, I was launching portable navigation under the Harman brand name.
So many of our audience watching and listening then have probably seen you or heard from you over the past few decades
I'm
as
trying
you've
to hide
had.
from most of them, but go ahead.
You what now?
I said I'm trying to hide from most of them.
You're trying to hide from most of them. No,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
not hiding. You're not hiding anymore.
Okay,
And yet you're now. I ran into you, Mike, at the Pro Source show in Vegas. Just
right,
seems like a year ago, but it was only 4 weeks ago.
right,
And believe it, yeah, because the Monday, March 9th was a Monday, and the show was Tuesday and Wednesday, the 10th and 11th.
right.
So it feels like a long time ago, but that's when I ran into you, and I swear it was so interesting because I had never heard of Help Lightning, and I had multiple friends and customers of mine at One Firefly coming over to me saying, "Ron, have you seen this stuff over at Help Lightning?" And I'm like, "What is that?" And I had no idea, and
Mm-hmm.
so ended up Keith from Total Home ended up saying, "Ron, you got to stop what you're doing. You got to come with me, and we got to go see this thing." And so there you are. So you were one of the more busy booths at the Pro Source show,
Right,
and
right.
you guys had a pretty cool demo.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind, sharing with our audience here what is this thing called Help Lightning, and then if you want to weave in, how did you end up? How did you land there? How did you discover these people as well?
Um, Help Lightning is software as a service. So I've been in hardware all my life.
I'm going to put your website up on the screen, by the way, just while you're talking.
Okay,
So,
fine, fine. And
uh,
so I can continue talking,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Continue
Okay.
talking. I'm just going to put the website up on the screen.
So it's software as a service, and I discovered it through a friend who was using it in a custom integration business. And how he discovered it was weird because it wasn't really exactly the target customer for Help Lightning at the time. And what they've developed is what's called merged reality or virtual interactive presence. It's essentially a way of merging two video streams in real time so that a person in one location who needs help can receive location from somebody somewhere else. It could be 1,000 miles away. And in receiving the help, it's a lot more than just FaceTime. It's a lot more than just telestration, although it uses common mobile devices that just about everybody has. But as you can see, if you can catch it in the video, that you can actually, the help giver can actually put his hand in the field of vision of the help receiver. And so it's just, and he can also telestrate, which is what you're seeing there. That's the drawing of lines and so forth. And there's a lot of software out there that enables you to telestrate, but there's nothing else out there that enables you to do the most natural thing in the world, which is the second best thing to really being over somebody's shoulder and helping them. And that is to put your hand in the picture, to use natural gestures, to use natural language. For instance, you don't have to say, "I'm circling this RJ45 connector." You can say, this connector here needs to get plugged into this input right here. You can do it just as if you were standing there. So if being there is the gold standard of giving help, this is the closest thing you can get to being there to help someone, or the closest thing you can get if you need help to having someone roll a truck or show up where you are and show you how to get things fixed. Just wanted them to be able to see. So so you know, what attracted me about it is first of all, the company's got a unique position with regard to using virtual reality, and virtual is a big word right now. It's a big buzzword in our industry. The CEO of this company, who's a serial entrepreneur, his name is Gary York. He's also a Smithsonian Innovation Fellow, among other things, computer scientist, taught at UC Berkeley, educated at Carnegie Mellon. This is about his fifth startup, and he's done very well with all of them. And all of them have been at what he calls the intersection of the practical and the possible. And that's a hard place to find. So that when you hear about virtual reality, you hear about things that require headsets. And right now, if you were to deploy headsets to get help out in the field, you would be spending minimum $1,000 a headset for everybody. And they're heavy still. They're monocular. They only usually give you one eye vision. And the battery time isn't all that great, and so forth. So what Help Lightning, this is before I was part of the company, what they did was they said, let's leverage all the mobile technology that's out there. Everybody's already got it. You know, people go on jobs. People who are out doing field service, they go out and do field service with ruggedized iPads. And, you know, so mobile technology is pervasive. And this is a way for somebody to take what already exists and also to take behavior that already exists. You already know how to stand over somebody's shoulder and point out how to fix things and how to help people. Now you can do it, but not make the trip, which is especially relevant today when you have this shelter-in-place directive. And if you don't have the directive, you ought to have enough sense to do it anyway. Because it's kind of risky out there, and this really is an epidemic. So this is a way to give very natural help, to use natural language, to use words like this and that instead of technical terms for things when you want to help people. It even overcomes foreign language barriers. But there's more to it than that. You can also telestrate, that is to say, to draw on the screen that somebody is receiving help, can see for sure what you circled or you've pointed to. You can zoom in and out, and where that telestration was made stays in place. It stays attached to the piece that you pointed out. You can bring in schematics. You can bring in photographs. You can even bring in a third party. If you're an integrator and you've called for help within your team to somebody you think knows how to solve the problem, and he says, you know, I don't know that piece as well as Sam, and he's on another job in another place. Let's bring him in. And you can bring him right into the call, and then you can become the observer and he can become the help giver.
That's the idea, Mike, that was just crossing my mind, is that you have on any team different levels of skills, knowledge, and experience.
Right.
And something like this enables you to really take that top level experience and distribute it across your workforce.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. When I was at the ProSource Summit, there's one of the programs that I decided to attend, and that was on onboarding new techs, because I thought it was a relevant thing for me to try to get up to speed on in the CI industry. And it was presented by Dante Walston, who's now sort of running the ProSource University initiative. And you know, he pointed out a lot of interesting things. But one of them is that we are not very productive in the CI industry. We have about 62% productivity based on surveys that they've taken. That means for every 100 hours that you pay somebody, a tech, they've been able to generate 62 billable hours. So there's 38 hours you're paying for something that isn't generating any revenue. And one of the biggest culprits there is downtime for truck rolls. You get a call, you got to transition out of what you're doing, put things away, make sure you have the right parts and things that you need, put them in a truck. You roll a truck, you might drive for 30 or 45 minutes or an hour, et cetera, et cetera. So this is something that takes care of that, right off the bat. In most cases, you can reduce truck rolls by an enormous percentage with Help Lightning. And I have a little ROI analysis spreadsheet that I've put together where I ask people a couple simple questions, like, on average, how many truck rolls do you take in a week to help, end user customers? How many to help techs remotely who need some help on a job? You can plug in some of these numbers. What's the average cost of a truck roll? When you go to a customer's house to do it, how many of them are fixed the first time? Oh, it's about 90%. So 10% of them will require even another truck roll. So you roll all this up. The average that I've been generating is that people will get a return on their investment in Help Lightning in almost all cases at well under 5% reduction in truck rolls. So it's kind of a no-brainer. And
well, what are the financials? What can you share on this show? Like, what's the structure of how is it a per seat billing model?
Yeah, the cost is per seat. Now, we have an arrangement with ProSource, and in fact, my initiative in developing this particular vertical, which is consumer electronics, CI, etc., is requiring some different sort of pricing structure than we have typically had with the larger enterprise businesses.
You were mentioning off camera, you have like multi-thousand seat customers using software.
We have Ricoh and Johnson Controls and Husky and Siemens and Oxford Instruments, Boston Scientific, Diverse.
A lot of big names. Everyone here listening knows.
A lot of them. Yeah. And so the pricing structure is different. So we have special pricing, special group pricing for ProSource, and we're trying to get that kind of pricing together by aggregating people within groups so that we can make some economic sense out of it. But suffice it to say that in this case, you can kind of work backwards from it. I don't want to disclose something that's proprietary to ProSource and an arrangement.
Do you sell the software to non-ProSource members?
Oh,
or
yes.
Is it only ProSource?
Yeah, no, we sell the software to everybody who is using it. Right now, we're having trouble keeping up with everybody who wants it because they need it now. So yeah, the standard pricing is a fixed cost of about for smaller businesses. It's a fixed core price for the services of about $6,000 a year, and then there's a per user price, which can be as high as $1,080 per user. Now, ProSource, because we anticipate we're going to wind up with a lot of dealers, we have a price that is nowhere near that large, and we're hoping to be able to aggregate other groups and get that sort of pricing together. But anybody who's a custom integrator can expect that they won't be paying that full standard price. Okay. That's for sure. Let me put it this way. I would tell anybody, if I can't demonstrate an ROI to you that makes sense and then some over and above it, I wouldn't buy it. Yeah. But I think I can, so it's a program that pays for itself.
Mike, we have some people watching and listening live here, so I'm just going to put a few of them on the screen. Mackenzie, she says she's coming to you from Salt Lake City. She's excited to hear from Mike. Angel, he's coming from Mexico. He says, hello, Mike.
Hello, Angel. Hello,
And
Mackenzie.
Alvaro, he says, who is your guest? All right. Well, Alvaro, you asked me that before I introduced Mike. So now Mike is introduced. So you know that he is the man behind Help Lightning for the CI channel. And we also have Jamie Lynn. She's she's
okay. Hi, Jamie.
Now Birmingham, is that England? That's
No.
right, England. No,
that's Alabama.
That's Alabama. All right.
Yeah, it's actually a little sort of Silicon Valley action going on in Birmingham. It's got a burgeoning tech industry.
Okay.
And in fact, the building that Help Lightning is in, which is a very cool old industrial building, it's all tech.
All tech companies, like an incubator sort of building. Is that what?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It is an incubator sort of building.
Tomas is coming to us from Panama. Hello, Tomas. And we got Tina. She says, welcome, Mike. Excited.
Thank you.
From you. Awesome. So, Mike, what was, what are some of the numbers you can share here? What is March quarantine month been like for you? What are like some of the high level, facts that you could share? Like what has been the increase?
March, the number, one of our metrics it's a use metric as opposed to a revenue metric. And that's how many calls have been made, which is indicative of how many help sessions, how many times has this software been used to contact somebody and conduct a remote help or remote expertise session. And in the month of March, the number was more than 6 times higher than the next biggest month we'd ever had. And that is all attributable to COVID-19. And we also added, it was a huge revenue month. We added a lot of companies. A lot of companies were in a scramble to have something in place and get it there quickly. Because they're in the business of providing customer service, but the last thing anybody wants to see while they're quarantined at home, the last thing they want to see is something break, something go down that they need some help for, except for one other thing that they want to see even less. And that's a tech showing up.
I was going to say that's you or me showing up at their doorstep.
And who might be carrying something more than a tool case. Right?
Yes.
You don't know what they're carrying, but I mean, if you're taking all this time to shelter in place, you could blow it all by opening the door for one strange visitor. And not only that, but companies themselves want to take care of their people and make sure that they're not in putting themselves at risk by exposing themselves to situations where they have no certainty as to whether or not that's a safe environment. So, as I said, if the gold standard of giving help is to have somebody standing over your shoulder and pointing it out using natural gestures, pointing to things, using hand gestures, all that sort of stuff, this is the next best thing to that gold standard. This is as close as you're going to come, and you can get there using equipment that you already have and really using skills that you already have. Aside from learning how to touch a button on the side of your device that says you're going to telestrate, and then telestrating, or touching another folder and bringing in a picture, or freezing a frame, which, by the way, I should mention is an important thing that you can do. You can freeze. If I'm giving help and you suddenly need 2 hands to do something, I can say, well, let's get a nice picture of it. I'll take a screenshot. We'll freeze the frame. And now that the frame's frozen, I can still use hand gestures on it. You can put it up. You can lean an iPad, for instance, up on a shelf, and I can continue to move my hands around or to telestrate or to talk about what you need to do. But you don't have to be holding the mobile device in your hands.
Mike, two questions here, and then we're gonna wrap up. One is what is in terms of this virtual and or augmented reality, this virtual telestration and hand gesture capability. What is unique about Help Lightning? Are there lots of companies doing it the way you're doing it, and or are you the only ones? And how did that happen? I'm just curious.
There are a large number of companies, by large, I should say 6 or 7 that I know of, who enable telestration.
Okay.
That is, you can draw on the screen. Okay. There's nobody who has the ability to do the most important thing that we do, which is to put their hand in.
So that's patented technology, I'm
that
assuming?
That is covered by 5 patents in 40 countries.
Wow.
And by the way, this whole this product, if you will, was created by a neurosurgeon named Bart Guthrie, who was he specializes in Parkinson's, and he had come up with a surgical procedure that he wanted to share with the rest of the world. So he wanted to remotely show other people how to do it and guide them through it. And at that point, it was using a lot of specialized cameras and devices and stuff, but that's where it all started. And what it's now become is a commercialized business that's much more pragmatic. And I think, our philosophy is when it becomes practical enough to make sense of it to be used by more people, then we'll bring it in. We're not unaware of, and we in fact support a number of smart glasses. Our software will work with these glasses, but until things are at the point, I believe, where they're very practical, they're affordable, they make sense, they can deliver a very quick return on investment, that's when we make those moves. But we have some really, really smart people. I've been blown away at some of the stuff that I've seen out of Help Lightning, and in particular, I've been blown away at how quickly they respond to things in the field where people are trying to do things. We come out with an update probably every 60 days that's pushed out. Some of them are small improvements, some of them are major improvements. When I started with the company, for instance, if you were helping an end user, you had to have them download an app. Well, that creates a tremendous amount of friction. In fact, CI people will tell you, if they've used systems like that, about half of the customers just say, you know what, I don't want to do that. I just don't want to do it. So forget it. And we got rid of that. So now we do it just with a browser. You can shoot a text to somebody. Somebody's having a problem, you can say, you got a smartphone? You have an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy or something like that? Give me your phone number. You shoot him a text. He touches a button and he's in the session. And you're giving help.
So, Mike, you have over 45 years of experience in the CI industry, and we are going through unprecedented times. There's a lot of challenges out there for businesses. Mm-hmm. At parting words, do you have any advice for the people that are listening or watching that are either owners or in leadership positions within the CI space, and any words of wisdom to share regarding what maybe they're going through?
I would say this. I just pushed out a little blog piece called The Coronavirus Crucible. And Crucible is not only a device in which you can smelt things, but it's also it's a trial by fire. It's when people are really tested, and it really reveals their character. And when you're tested and you're able to come up with a response that becomes something better, sort of purified in the fires, or they have expressions like their friendship was tested in the crucible of war. Right now is one of those times. If you own a business, rather than focusing exclusively on, oh my God, what are we going to do? This is horrible. It's an opportunity to do a lot of things that you've not been able to have time to do, like, install perhaps a new CRM program, or like learn something like Help Lightning. And the beauty of Help Lightning right now is that you can kill 2 birds with one stone. You can Get this program now. You can learn how to use it because you have a little more time on your hands, and it does work remotely, so you can continue to service your customers. And I would say this: distinguish yourselves from your competitors who are closing their stores and saying, hey, we're sorry, we'll be back at this point and all of that. In the meantime, we'll do our best to try to help you. But if you've gone to the trouble to bring something new to the party that enables you to provide a much higher level of service at this time, I guarantee you it will set you apart from your competitors. And so it's a fabulous opportunity. Use the downtime to add another dimension to the value proposition of your brand and your business. And service is the biggest expression of your brand.
There you have. Couldn't say it any better. Mike, how can those listening or watching get in touch with you?
Well, they can send me an email at Mike Giffin at help. It's mike.giffin@helplightning.com, or they can call me. And there's the Help Lightning, and the phone number is 484-932-8784. I'm on Eastern Daylight Time.
All right, let me see if I got that right. I'm going to re-show that. Did I get it right?
That's it.
All right, 484-932-8784. Well, Mike, it has been a pleasure having you on episode 107 of Automation Unplugged. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your background and the exciting things you're doing at Help Lightning.
Thanks, Ron. It's been a pleasure for me as well.
Awesome. All right, gang. Well, there you have it. That was a lot of fun. I told you that this was really neat stuff, and everyone that I've talked to that has witnessed Help Lightning, I want to say as recent as yesterday, I was on with one of my customers, and they were describing a situation where they couldn't get into the house and they needed to solve a problem. And I pointed them to this website, and they were like, holy cow, that's exactly what I need. So again, I just want to help you. I want to show you guys and or share with you things and people and businesses and ideas that can help you, not only during a pandemic, but at any time. And I want you all to stay safe and sound. And certainly if there's anything we can do for you here at One Firefly, definitely let us know. And I've got a few more shows ready to go this week. So definitely stay tuned to our Facebook page. And again, as always, if you haven't already, go to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to Automation Unplugged. So on that note, I will see you guys soon. Be safe, wash your hands, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone.